day. Today we will be reading chapter 5 out of the book called The Bus Ride, and it was written by myself. This book has a few chapters that discusses the various xenophobic or views that Bahamians have towards other nationalities. It is about a Bahamian girl that meets a little girl of Haitian descent on a bus ride, and they learn about each other's lifestyle and their life history. So we will read chapter 5. Chapter 5, A New Perspective. After buying all of the groceries on the list, Johnny and I began the journey back home. As I sat on the bus, I reminisced on all that I had learned earlier this morning. I thought about all of the struggles that not only immigrants but Bahamians face. As we were driving, I noticed that we were in the area of where Sarah lives. I began looking from the left window to the right window to see if I can recognize Sarah outside. Mr. Roll, the bus driver, asked me who I was looking for. I told him that I was looking for a friend, to which he shook his head and laughed. While you and your brother were riding on the bus earlier, I saw you talking to the young Haitian girl. Do you know her? Mr. Roll asked as he quickly turned his head in my direction. I recently met her, but I did learn about some of the history of her family, I quietly responded back. He did not respond back, but instead he turned up the radio to listen to the midday news report. The entire bus went quiet as we were trying to hear what was being said. The broadcaster was discussing the law enforcement officers, especially immigration officers, will be driving around New Providence on their daily routines. Mr. Roll sighed and said, "That is exactly what needs to be done. I don't hate these foreigners, but I just want them to come the right way." The majority of the bus agreed with Mr. Roll's statement. An elderly woman who was on the bus stated that she recently saw a notice in the newspaper that was put out by the Department of Immigration. The notice was on immigration, visitor stay, and citizenship statuses. She walked up to the front of the bus to show me what it said. I held it up and saw the following notice. What I heard next was an example of the xenophobia that Mrs. Johnson discussed in social studies earlier. "That is what they deserve," one person explained. "Good. Only Bahamians need to be in the Bahamas. No one else should be allowed," someone else shouted. I was not surprised by what persons were saying because this mindset is very common to find here. "No Chinese, no Haitians, no Jamaicans, and no Greeks," an elderly woman in the back shouted. I looked over to find Mr. Rose shaking his head at the comments that were being made. I could tell that he was beginning to become upset by how tense his body became. "Listen, people, do not come on my bus spreading all of these hateful words. Yes, I agree that there is a right thing to do things, but I do not agree that the Bahamas is only for Bahamians. Do you realize the contributions that foreigners have made to our society? They do the jobs that Bahamians do not want to do, such as construction and yard work, and many come here and establish businesses that end up employing Bahamians," Mr. Rose shouted loudly. Regardless of the noise of the traffic outside, the entire bus was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Someone in the back of the bus began speaking. "Mr. Roll, I understand what you are saying. I think that some persons feel as though an influx of illegal immigrants puts a strain on the economy, the health system, the education system, and causes the loss of jobs for Bahamians in the lower sector. I must say that it has been interesting hearing the different views that people have. I have heard the views of someone of Haitian descent, of people who do not agree with immigration, and of people who do not have a problem with immigration once it is done legally. I noticed that we were getting nearer and nearer to our stop. It was an exhausting day, and honestly, I did not even feel like walking the rest of the way home. "Bus stop!" I exclaimed before Mr. Rolla had the chance to drive past our stop. When Johnny and I finally arrived home, I quickly put the groceries up and sat on the couch to relax. Later that evening, I called my family into the living room and began telling them about the experiences that I had today. I explained to them how Sarah told me about her family, her struggles, and numerous stories. "Wow, it sounds like the day was an adventure from the start to the end," my mother said. I asked my mother about her opinion on immigration and foreigners. She said that she does not support coming to a country through illegal means, but instead, she would rather persons utilize the legal means as much as they can. I do not hate foreigners as other people have. Instead, I feel that each culture and individual can benefit being in society if they are contributing to the society, she stated. As the darkness grew near, I laid on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I made up scenes in my head about the different countries, cultures, and information that I was told. Unfortunately, I never saw Sarah again after that day. Wherever she is, I hope that her family was able to gain their citizenship to this beautiful country. It is key to remember that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but we should still be respectful to each other no matter our differences.